Sometimes there's just something about a game that you just can't explain. Something special. Maybe it's the art, maybe it's the mechanics, maybe it's just the way the game makes you feel. We've decided to take the most popular board game of all time,
Monopoly.
No, Catan, and break it down into its mechanics and suggest to you a game that we think does those mechanics better. We're essentially replacing Catan using science. Science! You know that reference?
No.
She blinded me with science. Oh, I know what you'll get.
Catan the board game dog.
Catan the board game dog.
Catan the board game dog.
Trade wood for sheep?
Catan the board game dog.
Now I have the longest road. Catan the board game dog.
Catan the board game dog.
Bill. Take this whole exercise as being a little tongue-in-cheek. You know, it's not one of those videos where we just sort of hate on Catan because it's old and it's like Nickelback now, so it's cool to hate on it.
Look at this photograph.
I obviously would like Catan. It's a thing that brought me into the hobby, at least. My copy is like, look at it. This is when it used to be called the Settlers of Catan. In my day, we just wanted a way to suggest new games that we think do certain mechanics just a little bit better. And to spice things up, we decided to select games that the other person doesn't know about. Just make things a bit more interesting. But we have some general rules that have to be followed. First and foremost, it has to be the same playtime as Settlers of Catan. You can't go suggesting Twilight Imperium, an 8-hour game, because Twilight Imperium has trading. And it has to be the same level of complexity. You can't pick a really complex game for a replacement for Catan. That's absurd. And it has to have the same player count. So 2 to 4 players. Those are the rules. We begin with random resource production and resource management. What that means is that the resources you gain in the game are randomly distributed to qualifying players. So think rolling a 6 in Catan, and if you have a settlement on ore, you get ore. There's just something really fun about chucking these 2 dice and then just seeing what you get. There's an element of chance. It's that sort of calculated gambling. It's what makes Catan so fun, I think.
I think it's ironic coming from you, since you're that person that whenever you're unlucky in a game or you don't get the numbers you want, you are such a potty mouth and such a...
It's RNG, man.
sport.
Sometimes you gotta blame the gods. Bad luck. If I lose a game, it's because of bad luck. But
Never bad planning. Just
no, just bad luck. But it is a big part of Catan, you know? It's not fun when everybody gets the exact same amount of resources all the time. And the game that we ended up picking for this, and yeah, we ended up picking the exact same game, I mean, we share a collection after all, was Bad Company. We think Bad Company does that component much better than Settlers of Catan. It just feels much more fun.
So Bad Company players take on the role of rival gangs, trying to earn as much heist money as possible by recruiting new members, outrunning the police, completing jobs, and just chucking tons and tons of dice.
when we play Catan and the different numbers come up, I always feel like it's very unfair. With Bad Company, we all have our own board, but also you have all the numbers. So if there's a 2 or 5 gets rolled, you don't get nothing from it. You get something.
But the fun part of the game is that you can really stack up on a certain number. And so you get that thrill of like, am I gonna roll a 6? And you roll a 6, and then you just get this heap of just various resources.
Whereas with Catan, I feel like a lot of times if a number that, like, it's not, you don't have anything on that number, and you say rolled, it just feels like,
It can be a little disheartening.
yeah.
Especially when it happens over and over and over again. But like we said, you're always at least getting you're getting a consolation prize, I guess. But also in Bad Company, you still have that agency. You still have that sense of control because it's up to you what numbers you want to double down on. Because you can spread thin and just put more guys on every single number, or you can double down on the 8s and 6s of the numbers that appear a lot. And it's kind of the same thing in Catan. You make sure you build your settlements on numbers that appear more regularly. So you have, and I think that's important. I think that's important whenever you're dealing with some element of randomness, that you want to feel like you have some possibility of control.
Bad Company, for example, does a much better job at making you feel like you have control over it than Catan does.
Next is trading and negotiation, which sees players trading in-game resources and sometimes out-of-game favors in order to gain benefits for themselves.
Yes, that's my favorite part about it.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, it just doesn't seem to be very popular in contemporary board games. And I kind of get it, because I guess it can add a lot of play time, right? Because players can kind of bog a game down with trading. Like I know when you're trading in Settlers and you're just like, do you have brick?
No. Oh, you have brick? Okay, I'll give you this. Oh, no? Okay, how about this? And it just goes on and on and on. So my pick for trading and negotiation, it has to be Lords of Vegas. Lords of Vegas just does trading so amazingly well. I don't know why, but it really does when you're playing it. It makes you feel like you're this like crime boss, even though there's no crime in the game, where you're just sort of like controlling maybe where you're just kind of controlling these casinos and you're like wheeling and dealing with other players. And I think it's because you can trade with a lot more in Lords of Vegas than you can in Catan, because you can give out your casinos, you can give out money, get future favors.
I am shocked you picked the game. I love Lords of Vegas.
I like Lords of
I
Vegas.
love that game.
It's in my top 100.
It was one of the first games where I played against you, and I won so drastically against you, and it really gave me that love. You know when you do something really well and it inflates your ego like crazy. Yeah. That was the first board game that gave me that feeling.
Was it because of the trading?
And it was because of the trading, and because
people stopped trading with me after a while. Like, what are you supposed to do?
Wait,
but I still love the game.
So like a lot of our viewers. I know I mentioned this before, but like Mike can become a sore loser.
I'm not a sore loser.
He's very petty.
I'm vindictive.
Yes, and he is one of those people that like likes to be a mean player for the fun of being mean.
Yeah,
it's fun to be mean.
Yeah,
and so when it comes to, there's not enough board games that focus on trading, but when the very few games that do, like Catan, like Lots of Vegas, which I absolutely love, people can start getting their revenge to him in a certain way, because it's like, oh, you're so mean to us, I won't trade with you then, and you can suffer. And so I remember becoming like a insane millionaire the first game we played. Yeah. And Mike was just poor, and I was like, this is hilarious, this is great. All our friends signed it with me. It was fantastic.
But there's a lot of cool, like, mean ways to trade in Lords of Vegas that you're not going to get with Catan, because you can sort of trade a person's casino, right?
You don't have to be mean.
You don't have to be mean. But you can trade for a person's casino without them actually knowing that you're going to use their casino to creep over to the other casino that they own and then take it over. That's the way I like to play. And that's what makes it fun. That's why I feel like a crime boss every time I'm playing. And that's why people don't trade with me.
Las Vegas would have been my like honorary mention, because I really, really love it.
What'd you pick on?
It's awful, yes. It's not a trading focused game, but it's an element to the game. And I think it's an element that makes that type of game so unique. Because we have many deduction based games that we play. And I think the trading element in that one kind of like tips it over the edge of like the top type of deduction type game for me. Just because a lot of deduction games, like I love like Planet X, but it's so solo, right? You're playing in a group, but you really focus on just what you're doing. And very often in these games, you get a clue and then you're just adding it to your game. And as much as I love solo focused type games in a group setting, there's something about being able to share and kind of create, like you kind of pick the people that you're supporting and helping.
Yeah, kind of.
Because you can choose the type of clues you give them and whether or not you want to give them like a lot or very little, and then give them back the same stuff that they've given you. And I think it adds a whole different layer of complexity and fun to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it offers a way for the game to have some element of interaction where otherwise there would just be none. And so for that, it's pretty cool. Next, we have networking and route building, which sees players trying to connect various destinations for in-game benefits. Network and route building in Catan is really important. You know, there might be that you've been gathering a ton of ore, and so you're trying to build your network and your route towards the 2-for-1 ore trading spot. There's just something about building those routes that's just like really satisfying. And so the game I picked would have to be equally satisfying. And I think that's Witchstone. Witchstone is a game that I don't think anybody talks about at all.
Have I played it?
You have, yeah. We played it at Andrews like a few weeks ago. It's one of those games where like, yeah, the main component is sort of placing down those action tiles that trigger off other action tiles, and that is really rewarding. And I think that overshadows the network and route building which occurs in the game, which I equally love, where you're sort of like guiding your, I don't know how to call them, like hench witches? I don't know. You build a route for essentially them to travel and gather resources and try to take over other little cities for victory points. And I think it really captures that same element of chasing a distant resource that Catan does.
Literally, in my mind, a route building game is choo-choo game.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I was like, I don't want to pick something that's just
it's
like
a train
trains.
game. You think you know what I picked?
Yeah, you picked Ticket to Ride.
I thought strongly, very strongly with Ticket to Ride, but that is not my pick, actually. My personal pick would have to be Carnegie. Carnegie, you're building the route to connect different locations. You don't have to build a really long route. Like it gives you what 20-ish points, 18 points at the end of the game. So it's not a make it or break it.
Plus, it gives you that opportunity to screw other players because essentially, if you can tell that they're trying to connect, I don't know, someplace in the south to someplace in the west, you can go like, oh, I'm gonna put my thing here, and then you block them.
Yeah.
Just like in Catan. That's the best part of Catan. You can tell a person's like, we're kind of trying to get to the spot on the board to build their settlement, and you're just like, I'll put a road there. You just block them off.
If you can't sense the pain I feel if I'm playing games with him sometimes. I really do feel like there's a sense of satisfaction in connecting that route. And I think I get it with Catan, I really feel that with Carnegie. With a game like Carnegie, the map is kind of pre-decided. With Carnegie, you have to pre-plan where you want to go and then make that route. And so for me, like it's the most strategic game I've played and it makes the route building more intent, like there's more intent going into it.
Next, we have endgame racing and negative player interaction, which sees players attempting to achieve a particular objective as quickly as possible and end the game, all while trying to negatively impact the performance of other players using in-game actions.
Negative player interactions, actually, I would say for Mike specifically, applies to every game he likes.
Sure.
Any game he loves is like, oh, I have to find a way to destroy everyone else, to make their lives all difficult.
If you see me at a convention, be sure to play with me. You'll hate me. When you see a person sort of getting out and ahead, you want a way to sort of mitigate that and just bash them down, essentially. And that's what you can do in Catan. When somebody gets to like those 7 or 8 victory points, nobody trades with them anymore. And of course, everyone starts targeting them with the robber once they roll that 7 and start stealing all their freaking resources, which we always love in Catan. And the game I pick is, actually, I don't know, you haven't played it. You haven't played it. It's Wiz War. Wiz War sees you as one mage battling other mages, all in an effort to get victory points. So you can get victory points either by capturing the other wizard's chests, or you get victory points by defeating them and killing them. It's like a death battle. And like Catan, you are racing and the game is entirely under the player's control. Whoever gets to those 2 victory points first will end the game. And all of the game is negative player interaction. You're not helping anybody. You're out to help yourself, and that's it. It is incredibly, as I said in my top 100 video, if you haven't seen that, check it out. It is just dumb in the best possible way. It is silly. It is filled with like stacks of cards that all seem to combo off each other in like random weird ways. But it's just, it's a blast to play, and it's fun to be mean to people and turn into giant monsters and punch holes through their heart, you know? And you can't do that in Catan. Yeah, you can only rob people in Catan. I want to punch people with my werewolf fists and cast fireball. Lightning bolt. Do you get that reference? Lightning, nah, I forget it.
My watch just gave me a reminder that I'm stressed.
Are you stressed? Why?
Oh, nothing.
My violence?
Nothing stress-inducing or living with somebody who wants to turn into a monster and punch people through the heart.
What did you pick?
King of Tokyo has the best negative player interaction. So I hate negative player interaction games. I hate when someone's getting in my way of my goals, whatever I'm trying to achieve and focusing on.
That's why you beat them down.
No, it's like I'm a very stay in your own lane kind of person. But then King of Tokyo, like it's the one of the few games where I'm like, I enjoy it. I enjoy forcing someone else into Tokyo or forcing someone else and seeing them like lose health points. I really enjoy that. It says a lot for someone like me that hates negative interaction games to love negative interaction in a game that focuses strongly on it. I think it's also more of to me, a party type game.
Yeah, for sure.
Different. Long Shot is too. It's more of a party type game.
But it's okay.
I don't mind those.
They still really capture that. It's the same thing with like placing the robber down in Catan. You know, you want to beat up on the leader. And that about wraps it up. Hopefully you enjoyed this list of games. Obviously, there's no replacement for Catan.
Yeah. Catan will always hold a special place in both of our hearts.
Yeah.
Before we met, like when we first met, and he asked me like, "Oh, do you play board games?" I'm like Catan?
Yeah, I like that Catan's become this new thing that you can sort of test out as to whether or not a person you don't know is familiar with games that you enjoy. You know what I mean? Because like even if you don't play Catan anymore, you can be like, no, not like Monopoly. When they say like, oh, board games like Monopoly, you're like, no, more like Catan. And then it makes it less pretentious.
You're either a Monopoly player or a Catan player.
Yeah. So let us know whose list was better, because it was mine. The end. Bye.
But his game was
Science! She blinded me with science.
Bye, everybody.
She blinded me with science.